Okarun and the girls try to clear up some misunderstanding with their classmates. Later, the aquatic creature reappears before Momo and Aira. Hello and welcome to episode 10 of Dandadan. Have you ever seen a cattle mutilation? So this is the end of the Serpo arc. It's basically like the epilogue to it, and I guess you can kind of say it's the interlude to the next arc, which is going to be the Curse House arc. And this episode covers chapters 25, 26, and 27. So if you watch this episode and you want to know where the jump off point is for the manga, start with chapter 28. So we start off this episode with Queen Sensei. So in the last episode, I mentioned how there's going to be a new woman for people to simp for other than Seiko. And here she is, Queen Sensei, who is a sadomasochistic nurse. So she's basically questioning our three heroes and asking them if they're being bullied. Basically, she's trying to figure out why the hell were you guys running naked through the classroom? Did someone put you up to this? Are you being bullied into doing this to embarrass yourself? And our heroes are like, no, Sensei, it's nothing like that. But they can't really tell her why, because, you know, they can't just go out and say, yeah, we were fighting a Loch Ness monster and a mantis shrimp and some aliens called Serpos. And yeah, that's what happened. So they're trying to kind of come up with something to say. And then that's when the principal shows up. And we just get like a funny gag where Queen Sensei gets upset that he entered her office without knocking. So she takes him into the next room and starts whipping him in the back. And our heroes are just kind of like watching her. And then she just calmly like steps back into her office. And she's like, I got something I got to take care of, but you guys can chill out here for a while. And then she leaves. And so that's when we get Aira and Momo are just freaking out. They're wondering what the hell they're going to do. They're like, you know, the entire school saw us half naked. What excuse can we use? Because the excuse that is the truth, no one's going to buy it. It doesn't make any sense to the average person. And Momo's like, oh, that reminds me. Aira, when did you become acrobatic silky? And Aira's like, you know, I just found out I had the powers today. But it makes sense because I am the chosen one. And she gives like, not just the chosen one, but she's like, it makes sense because I am the chosen protector of Earth and yada yada. Like she basically lists off a bunch of titles. And Momo's like, your title keeps getting longer and longer every time you say it. But that's when Okarun basically mentions like, hey, Aira, now that you have demonic powers, the aliens might be after you. And of course, Aira is like blushing and embarrassed that Okarun is worried about her. But yeah, they basically discuss the fact that the aliens this time were after Okarun's powers. They were after his balls. They were after his banana. They're wondering like, why do they want it so badly? Momo even questions like, if they want the powers of a yokai, why don't they just kidnap a yokai? It would be easier that way. Why go after us all the time? And that's when Okarun comes up with this really cool theory that I wish the series would go more into. It's kind of brought up a little bit later on. I won't go into details because I don't want to spoil anything, but I wish this was something that like really focus on because it's a really cool theory. The theory is that the aliens want to take over Earth, but they can't because there are yokai on Earth. Not just yokai, but demons. Because Japan is not the only one with demons. Every culture, every country has its own demons. Even though aliens have advanced technology, they can't put up a fight against demons and their powers. So they want to get the demonic powers so that they can study it and so that they can use it to take over Earth. But they can't go one-on-one against demons. So instead, they're going after an easier target, which is Okarun and his balls. And we just get this funny moment where Momo is just like, yeah, you were blabbering for too long that I just zoned out. Are we in danger?
We need to get it back! You blabbered on for so long I zoned out. What's going on? We in danger again?
I got the gist.
And Aira and Momo again just start freaking out about the fact that the entire school saw them half naked and they don't know what to do. And then Aira's like, oh, I got an idea. We'll just blame it on Momo. Because Momo told us to strip off our clothes. So we'll just put the blame on her. You do the same thing, Okarun. And Okarun's like, no, that's messed up. We shouldn't be doing that. But Momo like refuses to do anything. She's like, if you want to do that, go ahead. I don't care. Like I'm done coming up with excuses and stuff. And then that's when Aira's friends show up. And they, of course, blame Momo. And then they take Aira out. And Okarun is once again like why don't you stand up for yourself? Why don't you tell them that it wasn't your fault? But Momo just, once again, she just flashes the peace signs at the girls, and she's like, I don't care. Like, let them think what they want to think. What's more important is I want you to explain what went down between you and Aira. And so we get the flashback where Aira tried to kiss Okarun, and Momo walked in on that. And Okarun just explains the truth. He just says that Aira tried to kiss me. I was fighting her off, and then I tripped and I fell on top of her, and that's when you walked in. And Momo's like, okay, well then why were you there by yourself in the first place? And Okarun says, because I wanted to get stronger. And Momo's like, why were you doing that? And Okarun explains, well, I'm a guy. I wanted to look cool. I thought if I got stronger all of a sudden, you would think that I'm cool. And he's embarrassed about admitting this. And Momo's kind of teasing him at first. But then she eventually stops and kind of starts blushing when she realizes that he might have feelings for her. At least that's the way I interpret it. Okarun, he just kind of tries to write it off as, like, I'm a guy and guys just want to look cool. But she's like, why do you want to look cool specifically? Like, why do you want me specifically to think that you're cool? And Okarun basically is like, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go back to class. You don't have to worry. I'm not going to say anything that's going to paint you out to be the villain, because none of what happened was your fault. But then before he can leave, she stops him, and it looks like she's going to say something. She's kind of like embarrassed, but she's like blushing, and she wants to say something to Okarun. She doesn't know what to say, and then that's when her friends show up. And then we just have like a funny moment where her friends are trying to figure out like what happened to them. Like one moment she was in the class, the next moment she was gone, and then she found out that, she was half naked on the floor with Okarun, who was naked on top of her, and that Aira was somehow involved. Like she was also half naked. And so we have this whole moment where like they're basically have like a spotlight on one of the friends as she goes through her theory and basically explains that the two girls were fighting over a guy, and the only guy is Okarun. So that's what it was. You two were having like naked gladiatorial combat for Okarun's heart. And I just love this expression on Okarun and Momo's face where they're just kind of like, what the hell are you guys talking about? And then that's when we cut to Aira. And Aira is playing her cutesy act, basically saying how like what happened to her was traumatizing and she doesn't want to talk about it. And everyone's like surrounding her and like worried about her. And one of them brings up that it was Momo's fault. Momo's been going after Aira. She even dropped a wash tub on her head. And they just start saying how much of a bad influence Momo is and how she's a terrible person. And one of the guys even said that, like, she's a slut and she sleeps around with anybody as long as if they're a guy. And we can see that this is affecting Aira. Like, at first, Aira was totally okay with, tricking everybody. We even have her with this goofy expression that reminds me a lot of Anya from Spy Family. Yeah, she just looks like a goofy little gremlin. But then as soon as they mention Momo and start painting her in a negative light, we can see that it affects Aira. Aira's guilt starts creeping in, and she has a turning point where she reveals that all that is BS. All those rumors about Momo sleeping around and all that stuff, I made that all up. It was all me. None of that is true. Please don't say anything negative about Momo anymore. And then she leaves. And as she leaves, it sounds like she starts crying. I'm listening to this on the English dub, by the way. So all my previous reviews were me watching the Japanese audio with English subtitles. But I went back and I watched it again in English. And I noticed that the English dub seemed to be more faithful to the manga when it comes to the dialogue. I remember, like, even in the last episode, I pointed out the fact that I was a little bit disappointed that Momo wasn't insulting Aira as much as she did in the manga. But it turns out that she actually did do that in the English dub. Like, she was calling her a skank and all that stuff like she does in the manga. But she did it in the Japanese dub, or at least in the Japanese dub with the English subtitles. The English subtitles weren't really bringing that point up. So, yeah, it seems like the English dub might be more faithful to the manga in terms of the dialogue, or at least more faithful to the English translation of the manga. So for all I know, the Japanese audio with the English subtitles those English subtitles can be more faithful to what the Japanese audio is, and that Japanese audio can be more faithful to what they're actually saying in the Japanese version of the manga. In terms of the English version of the manga that I've been reading, the English dub seems to be more faithful to that version of the dialogue. It seems that way. I just wanted to point out the fact that, yeah, I watched this with the English dub. The English dub is actually very, very good. Like, all the characters' voices work greatly. They're perfect for the roles. You don't have any moments where like you have a character with a voice that doesn't match. Like, it matches perfectly, and even just like the tonal inflections, like when basically the emoting is very, very good. The dialogue is very, very good. So the English dub is fantastic. If you're one of those people that you prefer to have the English dub, then totally go for the English dub. It's just as great as the OG Japanese dub. I watched both of them, so I've already seen this episode twice. So I watched it first as a English dub, and then I watched it again with the Japanese. But yeah, I really do enjoy the English dub. But it seems like she's kind of crying. And later we see her on the park bench outside, and she's basically, the reason why she's so down is because she's destroyed this perfect image that she has painted herself as in front of everybody. Like, everyone sees her as this cutesy, if a little bit dim-witted, but pretty girl that everyone kind of needs to protect and coddle, and that's what made her so popular. And now that she's admitting to lies and rumors that she spreaded, all that perfect image is getting destroyed. And that's when Momo confronts her and basically says, hey, so how did it go? Did you tell everyone that was all my fault? And Aira lies at first and says, yeah, everyone hates you now. And Momo's like, I don't believe it. Like, usually you're surrounded by everybody. They follow you around like goldfish turds. And I was like, okay, that's a good line. You didn't tell them, did you? And it looks like there might be like a little bit of respect between the two. And that's when Mantis Shrimp shows up, and he's covered in white liquid. And before you start thinking naughty thoughts, this is just his blood. And the reason why it's white is going to be explained later on. But he's getting ready to fight them, and then he collapses. And since I did bring up the English dub, I will say that I'm not the biggest fan of the dub for Mantis Shrimp, just because the effects that they use for the voice makes it a little bit hard to make out what he was saying. There are times where like I had to turn on the English subtitles, which doesn't necessarily work because the English subtitles is for the Japanese dub. So the English subtitles does not match the English dub at all. But I mean, I already kind of knew what he was talking about because I've read this manga before. But yeah, it is a little bit hard to make out exactly what he's saying. You have to pay very close attention to it. But yeah, he passes out. And then he has like a flashback where he sees his son crying and saying, I'll miss you, Daddy. I'll miss you. He wakes up, discovers that he's covered in bandages, and he's kind of wondering what's going on. Like, where is he? And then that's when he sees Seiko, Momo, Aira, and Okarun in front of him. And it turns out he's in Momo's house. And he gets up, and it looks like he's going to like get ready to fight when he hits some food. Turns out to be curry. And basically they explain to him, like, hey, we bandaged you up, and we didn't know what aliens ate, so we just made a simple meal. This is curry. Feel free to eat it, but you don't have to if you don't want to. And then he starts crying because he realizes this is the first time anyone has ever taken care of him. This is the first time he's ever received any kind of medical treatment, that anyone has ever been nice to him before. And he doesn't know how to handle it. And then that's when we cut to the meal scene, which is a running gag that we see in the manga constantly, and I freaking love it. Basically, anytime an arc is over, we get a meal scene where everyone that participated in the arc sits down for a meal. And as the group starts growing bigger and bigger, we get more and more people joining the meals. And I also love how the meals kind of have something to do with what the arc was. So, for example, the first meal between Seiko, Momo, and Okarun, they were eating crab. And this was immediately after they defeated the crab demon. And then you have here where they are eating sushi. And it's like, well, who are they fighting? They were fighting sea creatures. They were fighting mantis shrimp, and they were fighting Nessie, which kind of had a design that was somewhat similar to an eel, kind of. So, yeah, it's just kind of funny that the meals fit with what they were fighting against previously. So mantis shrimp's like stuffing his face with sushi, and Seiko drop kicks him and starts punching the crap out of him for eating up all the sushi and not allowing other people to have any. We even have a moment where Turbo Granny starts attacking Okarun because Okarun took one of our meals, and his excuse is like, I didn't think you were eating it. And she's like, I was saving it for last, which I totally understand because I do the same thing. Like if I'm eating something and there's like one portion or like one side dish that I like more than the other, I always save that for last. And of course we have Momo and Aira fighting each other because they both want the same dish. And Momo's like, you're just a guest. You should let me eat it. And Aira's like, well, I am the guest and you should let the guests have first dibs. So everyone's fighting each other. And then eventually we have Mantis Shrimp telling his story. And his story is basically that his planet is like war torn. And so the people of his species, they're very strong. So they tend to hire themselves out as like bodyguards, mercenaries, that kind of stuff. And he's not very strong. He's kind of weak amongst his kind. And so because of that, he tends to get the suicidal jobs. Because on their planet, or I guess in their society, the toughest soldiers will get regular cushy kind of jobs. I mean, they're still bodyguards and stuff, but they don't have jobs where like their life is consistently at risk. Whereas the people who are weak, they get the more suicidal jobs because who cares if they die, right? No skin off our back, we'll just replace them with another. And he talks about how he needs the money. And the reason why is because he has a son. And his son has a disease. And the disease is that every time when his son poops or pees, he loses all his blood. Like he poops and pees all his blood out. And so he needs regular blood transfusions. And it's the same disease that his wife died from. And so he needs money so that he can give constant medical treatment to his son. And he feels terrible about this because he wasn't strong enough to protect his wife and save his wife. And now he's not strong enough to save his son. And he doesn't know what to do. And Okarun offers up his wiener. He basically says, hey, you can have my wiener and you can sell it and then we'll try to get it back later. And Momo's like, no, don't do that. I just kind of like how like her first response is like, no, we need you to keep your wiener. She basically says that the money that he would get from your wiener, it might help for like the first few transfusions or whatever, but he's going to need like a constant stream of income coming in if his son needs constant treatment. So your wiener isn't going to last long in regards to that. And we just kind of have like a little funny moment where Aira is kind of like, I'll help you, Okarun. I'll help you get your wiener back if that's what you want to do. And Momo's like, what the hell are you doing? And Aira's like, well, I want to be someone that supports Okarun. I think Okarun needs a partner that will stand by his side and support him. And if you won't do that, then I don't think you're going to make a good partner for him. And of course, Momo gets very upset at that, which kind of says something. But yeah, Mantis Shrimp, he basically thanks him for treating him. And he says he's going to be on his way and he's kind of down. That's when Seiko arrives and she's like, your blood smells, it stinks. But I've smelled this before. I think I might have a solution to your problem. And so she gives him a glass of milk and she says, drink that. And he drinks it and he realizes that this is his blood, or at least it has the same properties as his blood. So it turns out that the reason why his blood is white is because it's milk. And he's like, this is exactly like our blood, only this one seems to not be as thick. And she says, yeah, it's been homogenized for humans to be able to drink. But if you get it straight from the source, then it should be even more similar to your blood. I have a friend who owns a farm, and he can give you a cow that you can take back to your planet and basically use the cow milk as transfusions for your son. And so we have the adaptation to, in my opinion, one of the greatest panels in this entire series, where we just have the crew calmly watching as a spaceship starts abducting a cow. I freaking just love this panel so much, and I'm glad that it made it into the anime. I will say I wish it lasted longer. Like, just have like a still shot of it for a while, or just make the cow being abducted a little bit more slower just so we can appreciate it more. But yeah, Mr. Mantis Shrimp now has a solution. He now has a way to save his son. So he thanks them and he tells them that I will never forget what you did. And if you ever need my help, just let me know and I'll be there in a jiffy to help you out. And so he disappears. And then we cut back to Momo's house, where Momo, Aira, and Okarun are kneeling on the ground. And they're basically begging Seiko to purchase them new school uniforms because theirs got ruined. And Aira's kind of like, why did you drag us into this? And Momo has this smirk on her face. And she's basically like, this is the time where you have to humble yourself to take advantage of the elderly and their money. And Seiko kind of is just watching them. She's like, all right, I'll buy uniforms, but only for Okarun and Aira. And Momo's like, why won't you buy any uniforms for me? I'm your grandchild. And Seiko's like, I don't like your eyes. Your eyes are really shifty. It seems like you're trying to take advantage of me and my money. And she says, if you want the money, if you want me to buy you a new uniform, I need you to do this impression. And I forget the name of the person, but it's an actor from this movie. It's an actual movie you can look up. So Momo has to do the impression. It looks kind of funny as she's doing this impression. And that's when the doorbell rings. Momo goes to answer it, and a boy with red hair shows up. This is Gigi. And Gigi, for anyone who doesn't remember, was Momo's childhood crush. He was the one that made fun of her when she went to school one day with her hand on her head back in episode 1. He's the one that made fun of her and caused her to basically yell out at her grandma and get into a fight and stuff like that. He's here now, and apparently he's going to be staying over. Then we have Okarun realizing that this is not just Momo's first friend, but this is the first boy she's ever had a crush on, the first boy she was ever in love with. And we have like a quick zoom in on his face as he realizes this, and then the episode ends. I will say I'm not the biggest fan of Gigi, not because of like, the Momo and Okarun or anything like that. Like, I do like Momo and Okarun together, but I'm not one of those like huge shippers. Like, I don't really care if people get together, then they get together or whatever. I just, honestly, when it comes to Gigi, I find him a little bit annoying. Like, I don't hate him. Let me just put that out there. I don't hate the guy. But when it comes to, like, the group, he's probably my least favorite character. Like, I find him just pretty annoying at times. He's one of those where, like, half the times he's fine. The other half, he's kind of annoying. I won't say anything to, like, spoil it. I'll let you guys figure it out for yourselves and be your own judge. But, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of him. But yeah, the next episode is going to be the beginning of the Curse House arc. And I think we're probably going to have to end with that, right? I don't think there's going to be because there's only 2 more episodes left. I don't think there's enough time for them to get into the Evil Eye arc. Or if they do, there's no way they can finish it. I think basically we're going to have the Curse House arc and then end it in a way to set up for the Evil Eye arc, which would be season 2. That's what I'm thinking. But I'm not going to say any more because, again, I don't want to spoil anyone who's just watching the anime. I thought this was great. I love the fact that this series will go from like crazy over the top action like we did in the previous episode to just regular slice of life stuff that we had like for half this episode to all of a sudden helping an alien abduct a cow so that he can take it back to his planet and use its milk to save his son's life. Like, this series just goes all over the place, but it does it in a way that's not hard to follow. Like, it's not just random stuff happening for the sake of random stuff happening. Like, there's an actually coherent story. It weaves between all these different genres and tones like beautifully. I love these characters so much. I mentioned this before, but I love the fact that these characters actually talk to each other. They actually communicate with each other. They feel like actual people. Like, you don't get crazy, like, drama for the sake of drama. And it's like, man, everything would be fixed if these characters just hash things out. Like, these actually feel like real life teenagers, adults, for the adult characters. They feel like real people. And I think that has to do with the fact that the mangaka had to read a bunch of romance novels, like romance manga series, so that he can kind of get a hold on how to write like male and female characters interacting and stuff like that. It worked. Like, he did his research and it shows. But I love the way that Science Saru has been adapting this series. It's fantastic. I don't know what else to say. I can just gush on this forever, but I love it. I love the characters. I love the story. The artwork is beautiful. Like, the animation is just so good. And I like the way that they do like the little comedy bits with the visual gags and stuff. So yeah, this was a more slower pace episode than the last one. This was more of, again, slice of life with just a little bits of some alien stuff near the end. And even that alien stuff was like no fighting or anything. It was just more like, again, slice of life with an alien. But I liked it. I thought this was really good. So there you go. There's episode 10 of Dandadan. Have you ever seen a cattle mutilation? Once again, this episode adapts chapters 25, 26, and 27. So if you watch this episode and you want to jump into the manga, start with chapter 28. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you next time. Take care. Later. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I still want to thank you for watching it this far, and I hope the next one is more to your liking. With that said, thank you once again, and I hope you guys and gals have a good one. Later.